it's funny, the FBI and intelligence stuff and parkour actually were started around the same time. So I had moved to Washington, D.C., specifically to go to the FBI Academy in Quantico. And I got put in the cyber division, I think, because I like hacked my high school's loudspeaker when I was like a kid. And they brought, they know everything. They brought that stuff up during my like background check, and I
Wait,
was
they hacked
totally shocked.
they know this? They tell me the story that they know, because what did you hack at your high school?
My high school's loudspeaker system,
Oh, okay, the PA
and it
system.
was like one of the first memes at the time. It was like a recording of Sean Connery just going, "You're the man now, dog," over and over again.
I do know that one.
And yeah, my friends and I just thought that was absolutely hilarious, and so I hacked the loudspeaker and put it on a boombox and just had it on loop. And yeah, people, principal, everyone was running around the school. So I was told that it wasn't like put on my record that I did like community service as
Hmm.
like a suspension type thing. But they still, like, when they do your background check, they definitely go back in time and start talking to all your teachers and people that knew you to kind of figure out what type of person you are, if you would be blackmailed, or if you're working for a foreign government or something like that. And so yeah, so they knew about that. And so I think that's the reason I got put in the cyber division, like, because they definitely brought it up during my background check, and I was like, wow, you guys do your homework. So
Well, man, that is scary and sort of comforting, I guess. They're thorough, these
yeah, they're
FBI
thorough.
agents.
That's right. So yeah, so I'd moved out to DC, and I just had this, you know, like a fascination with parkour. I'd seen Casino Royale, I think, like so many folks, and seeing, Sebastian Foucan and doing his thing, and just being like, wow, like that guy handily, like James Bond catches him in the movie, right? But you're like, he doesn't actually catch him. He kind of like outwits and breaks into that embassy. But I was just like, wow, like that guy moves like a true ninja,
Hmm.
just like I'd never seen anything like it before. And so when I got to a bigger city like DC, I came from a small place in the Midwest, and was like, yeah, I want to see if that exists. Stumbled across the APK, American Parkour Gym, in downtown DC, and pretty much started taking classes right when I got in. And so those two things were kind of going simultaneously for over 10 years at this point. Um, so I worked for the FBI for a while, and then I started to do private sector cybersecurity. And yeah, so parkour had been growing, in the DC area, and I'd been a part of that. Sometimes teaching at the gym, other times just kind of focusing on my own training. And I guess I was part of that echelon of you know uh, dresseurs who basically, like, yeah, I started this as a hobby. It was never, I didn't start in my teens. So I started, pretty much as a fully grown adult. um, so I definitely was scared of some things. I think
Hmm.
when you're a kid, you can just like throw your body in and just not worry about any of the impact or anything. But I was a little bit more cautious, so I probably didn't progress as quickly as I could have. But I just loved it. I fell in love with the community. I just thought that everyone was amazing. And I love this idea that it was very international from the beginning, because I loved traveling, and that's what I wanted to do with a lot of my like government work, was to travel and kind of see all these different places. And parkour was actually really the outlet that actually got me out the door, more so than the FBI, because the FBI is a domestic intelligence agency. So I was mostly in the States for all of my bureau related stuff. But parkour was really what kind of got me out in the world. And yeah, I just think it's amazing, because you have that immediate like connection with folks, and you can just plug into a community and have people show you around a different city, a different country, translate sometimes, and show you just kind of these amazing off the beaten path, not any of the touristy spots. They're taking you to rooftops and cool areas around the city. So that was really where I felt like I started falling in love with parkour. So
That is the place to fall in love with parkour, on a rooftop with some locals, I would say. Yeah. Or if
uh,
you, or just wherever, even by yourself, that's where you fall in love. You catch
yeah,
a lot of good sunsets, especially those early years. I feel like you really just, there's something really special about realizing. I don't know if it's still like this for people coming up, But when I think we were coming up, it was like, wow, it just felt like there was a whole lawless kind of land out there to explore for people willing to go access it.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the interesting part for me too. Was kind of like I had a background where I had to keep very squeaky clean to get into the FBI, but I always had that subversive,
Mm.
slightly anarchist side to me as well. I think all folks do that are in that. You just kind of you play by the rules to a certain extent, but you're also kind of like fascinated by the underground as a result. And so for me, that was very much parkour. It was, yeah, you're trespassing sometimes. That's definitely not allowed, but that's part of kind of the fun of it,
Yeah.
and just yeah, kind of yeah, figuring out how you can go different places and kind of push your limits. I think that's the other thing, was just really being able to um, step outside of your comfort zone, and the more that you do that, the more it becomes a habit. You feel like you can go other places because if you're too much in your comfort zone, you feel very boxed in. And I feel like parkour was always about the freedom and about pushing yourself out of the comfort zone. So everyone thinks of the physical side, but the mental side was, I think, really what you know absolutely made me fall in love with it, was just because it's like, well, this is a mental model. You can apply this to like literally anything in your life.
Mm.
And you see a lot of dresseurs kind of do that over time, where it starts physical with how to break something down, and then they start using it on larger problem sets within their life, and creating those kind of progressions to level themselves up.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I love that. Have you applied it to some of your cybersecurity in a way that's salient right now?
Yeah, trying to think of like a good example of that. It's really interesting because the cyber stuff was at odds for a while because it's very analytical, and with parkour you have to have a balance, right? If you're too analytical about it, I would sit there for a long time on a jump that I knew was at the outer limits of my capabilities, and I would just stare at it for the longest time, and then I'd go through the motions. I'd get my, everyone has their little pre-jump routine, right? When you're like
Yeah.
committing to something like that, you all have like your little ticks or whatever, and I have my own, and I would
Yeah.
I would do those over and over again, getting prepped for it, and then just analyze everything that could possibly go wrong in that scenario. And I was just like, I can't, so I had to learn to actually shut that part of it off. So in some ways,
Mm.
I felt like the cyber analytical stuff was detrimental, and I had to learn to balance the two.
Interesting. Yeah. Is it did you ever get in any trouble with your superiors or, clients, private clients?
Luckily, no, but it is funny training in DC because so much of it is, federal property. So there's
Mm.
definitely been a couple times where you've had you've had folks come out, with hands on weapons or something
Oh,
like
wow.
that, and that's definitely like folks that train in DC. If you're training downtown, like sometimes you just don't even realize it because it's block to block, and all of a sudden that one's like federal property, and you're like, wow. Okay, yep, no, no worries, backing away, not trying to actually break into this building. I have no idea what's in that building. It could
Mm.
be a secure facility. It could just be, a paperwork,
Hmm.
printing type thing. But at the same time, like they take that very seriously. So that is kind of one of those eye-opening things in DC. But luckily, nothing ever too bad happened, and that is definitely part of my, when I hear people talk about public parkour parks, I'm like, absolutely, because DC, that's definitely an issue, right? You can't even jump on some of the buildings without that. So,
Oh yeah, 100%. I've gotten in trouble ending up kind of similarly accidentally even on just the federal property here in Colorado. There's a whole different level of protocol for those kinds of whatever buildings and properties. Yeah, and I can't imagine what DC must be like because it's the ultimate here in the United States. But
yeah, and other countries don't have to deal with that as much, right? Like most places, you're not going to like jump on something and have guns drawn on you, But that's definitely, I mean, that's a huge concern, not only for if you're training in DC, but we've also talked about this, if you're BIPOC minority, in
mm,
training, it's definitely scary because like the US is way more aggressive with that. Instead of, coming out and talking to folks, people sometimes show up to a scene with like
Absolutely.
hands-on weapons or tasers, and you're just like, whoa, that's not something you see many other places.
Totally. Yeah, no, it's a definite, a huge factor, especially in the United States. I would agree.